Hi, everybody. This is Julia Roberts, and we are talking about beta readers. And this is a beta product. And so it is probably in flux, and we'll learn a lot from each other and make this a better product as we go forward. So we have 6 readers right here. That's 2 triads. And we might have the start of a 3rd triad, which will require some adjustments because a triad is 1 writer and 2 readers. So if Karen has 100 pages that she would like to submit, Karen, what are you writing? What's it called?
It's a fiction called The Forgotten Daughter.
The Forgotten Daughter. So what we'll end up doing is putting a little blurb about what our books are on in a little membership group on Kartra, the same as your membership group for Mighty Writers. And in that, you'll be able to see The Forgotten Daughter, and you'll say, hey, I like the idea of that. You may or may not, there may be things that just aren't up your alley. Not really in this group. We don't have any sci-fi readers or writers, or Michael's a little sci-fi, it's because it's fantasy. But at any rate, you might, as we get bigger, it will be nice to be able to choose sort of something that you think you'll enjoy reading so that your feedback is more valuable to the author. Okay, so the author puts up their 100 pages again in the exact same club space. And 2 people sign up, and they are going to read your 100 pages. The author also signs up to read 2 people's 100 pages, and then they become the reader in that circumstance. Any questions about that? Any confusion about that? Okay.
I have a question. Technically, how do we share that 100 pages?
It'll be a PDF. It'll be downloadable from this little club, this little beta reader club space, which I'll give you the link in an email and a password in an email right after we're done. So it'll be like so people will have until, let's say, October 15th to upload their 100 pages, and on October 15th you can begin selecting which book you want to read. Once it's got 2 readers, it should, you have to pick something else.
I have a question.
Yes.
In the guidelines that you sent, talk about us explaining the context.
Yes.
Is that something we do in conversation here, or is that something we write out?
I think we'll go through those notes in just a minute. I'm just going to go over the whole structure of how it works kind of thing first.
Okay.
So the first thing is October 15th, you have to upload your 100 pages in a PDF form. So starting October 15th, you can choose your 2 books that you're reading, and 2 people will choose you. Okay. Does that make sense? And
yes, but do we not upload it until the 14th, or that's the last date?
Sometime between, that's the last date.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to not allow people to comment until the 15th. And when the comments open on the 15th, that's when you can say, hey, Michael, I'll read yours, Julia. And then everybody knows you have 1 reader.
Got it.
Right? Hey, Karen, I'll read yours, Melody. Then everybody knows. Oh, just for your reference, Karen, Melody's other name is Mary, which she sometimes uses.
That's my real name is Mary. I don't know why today I feel like
whenever she uses that AKA alias.
It's like, who is this person?
So if she were to sign Mary, it's the same person.
All right.
Okay, so you have literally 90 days to read your book and do your feedback until January 2nd. And we'll have a meeting on the Monday thereafter, which will be what? It'll be the 8th. Just because that's when those dates work out. Okay.
What was that last thing?
What's that? I'm sorry, Dean.
What was the last thing you said?
You'll have till January 8th to read and do feedback. Read and give feedback. So if we all find we've given feedback much earlier than that, we'll get back together and talk about if we want to do a second 100 pages or what we want to do at that point. This really is a beta.
Wow, cool.
It really is. maybe two of you have another second 100 you want to do, maybe one, maybe the rest of you don't, that's all good too. So, we'll just work out how to make that work.
I have a question. I previously wrote about 10 pages of a relative's story before getting into my memoir of my maternal grandmother. And I now think that instead of it being a prologue, it should be braided in. So I'm not sure if there's going to be time to do it in this group. So I might just include it with my 100 pages with the instructions. This is what
Yeah.
be braided in, and I'm working on the braiding in another class starting Tuesday night, but it's not going to be ready for this beta reader. So
That's exactly the kind of context we're talking about. Yeah. Because
Mhm.
really, you can use a beta
I
reader
did that.
at any point. Yeah, she's been braiding all this time.
I braided two stories together. I did that. That's what it took a
That's-
while, but it was great. It's great.
Mhm.
This actually might be perfect in that. I mentioned this to you, Julia. I sent a friend of mine something I'd written, and her comment was it didn't have an ending, which really struck me because there's this book I read by Paul Auster, great author, who I finished the book and I thought, what? The book didn't end. And I thought she had a valid point, and she explained why she thought it didn't end. So I wrote an ending.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know if I should make that another chapter. It's not really a chapter, or just another like little section because the book's more in sections than chapters. Or should I make it one whole piece?
I'm going to say that's
So my thinking,
your beta readers can literally answer any question you have in that way. You would get two opinions on. I like the non-ending. I think I like the ending, but it seems rushed. Whatever it is, but you can literally, that's part of like the context we're talking about. What are you looking for? And that's something that I think we're going to spend a little time together today talking about and writing about, literally, to just try and get clarity. So that we are actually asking for what works for us and what we need to know. So, because first of all, a beta reader can come in at any stage of finish. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be even ready. You can just bring somebody in, and just say to them, this is sort of rough, but I really would like to know, did you understand it? Did you like this character? Did you hate that character? Was this extreme enough? Whatever your questions are. So, and then you could bring somebody in when it's nearly perfect, which is like saying, don't tell me anything.
Nothing else
do-
to change, please.
I have a structure question on that. Do I show that? Do I offer that as two separate pieces?
So
You know-
that's the other thing, is 100 pages is what we've promised our readers they won't have more than. But if you wanted to do 60 pages of a chapter plus your ending, or in your case, Susie, you have 10 pages of prologue and braid in, and then you still have another 80 to 90 pages of story, you could do
That's
it.
not only the prologue, and then there's other things that need to be integrated as flashbacks. So I have to figure out where they're going to be flashbacks. So there's a lot of.
You might even ask them if they have ideas when flashback makes sense. It depends. I mean, we're all writers, but you're asking for them to read it and enjoy it. You're not asking for them to edit it. So read it and enjoy it is what you're looking for at this point. Mike, so I think once you've posted your 100 pages, you're going to post your questions. And that's the context of what, so I'll ask the questions on the form, the context, your questions, which we're going to work on right now, as a group and individually, but as, together. The other context is any kind of story setup you need to give them. The first section was prologue is going to be braided in. The second section is 60 pages in the middle. You have to make sure your reader's not going to get confused, because then the feedback you get is pretty useless. You want them to be in on the loop so that they can really come back to you with some insight, you know?
Like what I want more of or what's too much,
Hmm.
that kind of thing.
Those are good questions. Always ask the question, what would you like more of? And you can always ask the question of what got too long, you know, or was cumbersome. Those questions are in
What
the
question
thing I
about,
sent you.
question about format? Yes, PDF, but do you want it in a specific, um, double space, Times New Roman 12, blah, blah, blah?
Usually.
Easier to
Double
read.
space, double space, paragraph indent, but to me, this is standard manuscript and makes it easier, but it doesn't mean you have to do that, but double space, I think you have to. And at least 12 point. I think 12 points fine. Does everybody think 12 points fine? And
And you can make it bigger. You can view it bigger. if
you
want.
could make it bigger, even in a PDF. Yeah, you can go in or zoom out. So usually you indent a paragraph, start 5.5 things, you double space everything, and you have an inch all around margin. But you know what? This is not an English class. That's just like out of courtesy to your reader. But if that creates an enormous hardship for you, that's not what you're here to do. You know what I mean? You're not here to. But double space is very important for all of us. Anything? Okay, anything else question wise that way? Okay, so kind of fun and exciting, isn't it? I am. Let's start let's just ask ourselves some questions and journal on that a little bit so we can get clarity as the writer about what we're submitting and what we're looking for. So just start with what's the segment title of your book first. What's the title of your book?
Oh, we're just writing this down. Okay.
Yeah, you're just making your little, you can do it in the computer because this is what you're going to have to answer and upload as part of your submission. Okay, the next would be what segment are you offering? So and it could be asked, of course, what segments are you offering? So, or submitting, I guess is the word we're going to use so that we know who's doing, like you don't confuse who's what. So what segments are you submitting? If you're doing more than one submission, like 10 pages here and 20 pages here, you're going to put 2 areas of context. Context 1 and context 2. Now, then we're going to say, so the context there is where it fits in the story, what level of finish. Anything else? Anything else that I'm putting there? No.
Whether it's beginning, middle, or end,
Well, where it fits in the story. So literally where it fits in the story is also like, you might need to tell them a little bit of what precedes, because they need to be, they can't just jump right in and all of a sudden know who Jono is. They gotta, Okay. So context 1, context 2. So this is the part we're gonna now journal on, which is you've already identified what you're gonna submit right now. So what do you want to know? Just let's take 5 minutes on that.
Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry, Julia.
What do you want to know about this piece of writing? We are not judging your writing, we're judging your story to a large degree. We're not editors. Yeah. We'll do this until 1:35 if anybody is.
Will we present these questions?
they're gonna be in this that you're writing right now will end up being the little piece that you put with your submission. So that if I'm reading your 100 pages, I can download this too.
Okay, good, good.
But this is a rough draft. You have all the time in the world.
Yes.
Yeah. Every one of you should be writing, what would you like more of? What went on too long? Because those are critical questions always. Hmm. How do you feel? That's been 4 minutes. Do you still want 3 more? Okay. Martha, I'm gonna put you and me in a breakout room so I can catch you up. All these guys finish these questions for 3 more minutes. Okay? Hi, so right now people are doing a little exercise where you start with the title of your book, what segments you're submitting, like the beginning, middle, or end, or whatever. And if you're doing 2 segments, which a number of people aren't doing 100 consecutive pages, they're doing, individual segments, then we need context for however many segments you have. So where it fits in the story, the level of finish, what precedes it. And then now what they're writing and working on right now is, what do you want to know? So we already have been working on this 5 minutes. We have 2 more minutes. So I'll just read what I'd like to know, and then you'll have a jumping off point. I'd like to know what you know about each character. How does it feel unfair that Darby got eliminated? Does Bethy seem, I don't know what would you like more of? What went on too long? Did it make sense that Bethy had to leave town? Do the kids work? What made you laugh out loud? What made you cry? What made you gasp? What made you roll your eyes? I consider this plot and character fairly finished. Did that feel done? Does Ken always seem like a douchebag, or does he turn a corner? Does Pete's character change work? He goes from dick to nice guy. How do you respond to Everett? See what I'm saying? They're pretty specific questions, which I will narrow down to some degree, but that's what I'm working on from. That's why we're having a pre-write on it right now. Eventually you'll put your submission up, 100 pages in a PDF, and this form in a PDF. Okay. You're on the train?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to well, we have 1 more minute. Do you have any questions before we go back to just catch up? I'm gonna make a little membership group for this, a beta reader membership group, and that's when, okay, no questions. That's where you submit, that's where I'll open comments on October 15th. And in the comment, you can claim somebody's book. So you have to have your book and your questions up 2 weeks, October 15th. Okay, so. Okay, it's not like we're not gonna talk again between now and then, but that's a pretty good. We'll go back to, we'll end this session. Okay, Martha will be back within a minute. There she is. How'd it go? What'd you think? Okay,
Good.
It was really, I wasn't able to write free form, but I made a list of all of the sections that I know that I have to merge together. So I'm basically trying to piece in my mind which 100 pages I'm going to do and how much explaining I want to do. It'd be,
okay.
so ideally it would be nice if the story told itself, but if I have, so basically I'm writing an outline of what I've written so far that I think would make sense for the first 100 pages.
Okay. Who has written what questions they might ask the beta reader? Dean, do you want to read yours?
Sure.
Everybody might get their own ideas based on what Dean says. Go ahead, Dean.
All right, I'll just go through them. Are the characters real? Do they seem realistic? Do their voices sound real? Do they seem like they're in the years noted in the headers? In the header, I write which years. Do you get a sense of location or place, meaning geography or rooms or wherever they are at the moment?
Oh, I like that.
What would you, the reader, like more of? Are there aspects of any of the characters you feel a need to delve deeper into? What do you make of the relationships between the characters? Do you find any factual errors? Did anything you read strike you as incorrect or off-putting? Then there's 2 questions I don't know if I will ask or not. Is it reminiscent of any other author's works? And how do you feel after reading it?
I like both those questions quite a bit. And I'll tell you one thing that I think
Nice.
Martha's on the train, so I don't know if she's coming and going, but who is it reminiscent of is going to help you write a pitch letter. And we're all in it with each other. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like you're being smarmy or anything. We're here to help one another. So that to me is a great question. I wish I'd thought of it. Oh, here it is. I just got it on my page now. What writer does it remind you of? And how do you feel? And the other one, how do you feel? It gives
That's a-
you the start of a testimonial or whatever you call that, a review.
Yeah, because I wrote something kind of similar, but not exactly the same. It said, where is this?
Why don't
It's,
you read yours? Let's hear yours.
oh,
Thank you, Dean. Those were great
I
questions.
want, yeah, those are wonderful. Might use a couple of those.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm having us read them, because I think it's.
No, this is great. I
Go
want,
Should we post them somewhere so we can all see them?
Oh, if I put this on YouTube, it'll transcribe it.
okay,
Okay.
If I put it on YouTube, it'll just be private, but it'll transcribe it, and then I could email the transcription. That's the fastest, easiest way to get a transcription of anything. So go ahead, what did you write? Mary?
oh, I want to know if the chapters flow well together and if the transitions between chapters are sufficient. I braided in a second memoir about growing up in San Francisco in the 60s. I wanted to explain this with my book after with the other story about becoming a single mom, starting over from scratch. The book jumps back and forth in time from the 1980s to the 1960s and back. Is the story compelling? Do you want to read the rest of the book? If it bogs down anywhere obvious, please let me know. And then that's basically it for now. So
Those are good questions.
I
Great,
think of
thank
some
you very
others
much.
too.
for
Yeah,
sharing.
those are the main ones that I do want to know those things. So those are important. to me.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It takes a little moment to think about what you want to know. Karen, do you want to read your questions?
Sure, I had a lot of the same ones that other people did. I definitely wanted to know the other authors it reminds you of. After pitching it for a while, after doing queries for finding an agent, I've decided that I wanted to switch genres and make it a young adult piece
Okay.
instead. So that's one of my questions. Does this read like a young adult novel? Yeah, I put how do you feel after reading it? Does the beginning set up the story? Because I took a class in writing a beginning that sets the story up, and I just want to make sure that it's a new beginning for the book. So I just want that. Of course, where does it lag? Are there things that you question about what I've written? Like I said, does it read like a young adult novel? Are there other authors it reminds you of? Is the main character, the antagonist, too mean or just enough? Because it really sets up her in the beginning. And is the protagonist sense of self obvious? Do you understand her? I'm going to write it better. Do you understand her psychology of how she's doing things? Is she relatable? And I also did the chapters flow well from one to the next?
Nice. Okay.
Thank you.
Michael, do you want to read your questions?
Sure. Does the story or how it was written remind you of any classics you have read? If so, what titles, and what are the aspects of commonality?
Commonality.
And I like Dean's. How did you feel while reading it? That's very important. What genre? I like Melody's. What genre do you consider it? And then just the regular, what was the most memorable scene?
I like that.
Was the way it was shared or written and made it that way? If so, why? Let me just make sure I do that correctly. Okay, here. What was the most memorable scene for you? Was there any particular way that it was shared that made it so? If yes, please describe how and why, because that's valuable information to improve other scenes.
Right? Like you can say this took me by surprise, or there's reasons that it is memorable. Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, what were the reasons? And I also have a multiple choice. The opening, which I phrase this way, the opening stanzas acts as a hook or setup, as well as it attempts to ingrain this upon the reader. A, that the author intends to bolster matriarchy over patriarchy. B, expect a somewhat poetic experience. C, that this story is from a completely different paradigm. Or D, to the reader should expect a spiritual and healing experience to come. And any answer is correct for the reader, but as the writer, there's one that is most important for me.
Right. So this makes me think, Michael, Susie, I gather, and then tell me where I'm wrong, that you don't really have questions to share. I don't mean to be skipping you.
No, because there's,
Because you did that summary.
I was doing that, but I managed to come up with some questions.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. Before you go there, I would like to say something, then see if there's consensus on this. And that is, what if we had a read before and a read after sections? Because Michael, if you don't want to ask that question about the opening stanza before they've read it, does that seem true to you? Does that seem like a valuable way to do it? Like, you don't want them reading to find out which place made them laugh. You want them to remember what made them.
Well, I think I think there's a misunderstanding. I don't even know if I'm using stanza correctly is the right term, but like at the very beginning of a book, sometimes there's a little poem.
Yeah,
like
I know what you meant.
and that I would like them to read first before anything else, and then answer these questions, because if the reader doesn't, because the characterization is going to be hard for people to understand unless they understand and take this very seriously.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but does everybody feel like this construct would be useful? We could have a read before set of things and a read after set of things. And
Yes.
basically an honor system that, and you would want that in your read before, Michael. You want them to say that right up front. That's fine. You could put that in your read before packet.
How?
What is a read before? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay,
get
so
the
here's
read before.
read before is your name, the name of your book, whatever context you need to give them, and whatever question. Michael's asking this question about the beginning stanza. What does that stanza make them expect? So so you might have a read before packet that you want your beta reader to read before they read your book. And then
yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
And because then you could divide it up really based on the author. If they have one question they want to ask, or they want you to watch for something, it would be in the read before part. And if not, most of these questions that we're asking, we don't want to steer their reading. We want them to answer them having read. Does that seem true?
Right. So you're saying it's better to have a read before of the stanza, and then just say, what does the stanza make you expect?
Yeah. And then your read after would be whatever other questions you have, like, who would you compare this writing to? What does it make you feel like?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I like that.
You don't want to be guiding their writing, because you're not getting a very realistic take on it if you're telling them where to start feeling and where to stop feeling. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a little controlling today.
No, this is an anxiety producing situation. I understand that. And that's one of the reasons we did some of
it's also a place to, if you're by yourself without feedback, you can stay stuck for several years or all through the entire pandemic. So that's why I'm being really quiet. I'm using my listening skills. They're rare.
I'm ready to hear your question. So we've agreed we're going to have a read before and a read after section. We're going to actually label them that.
I see this actually as an exercise in getting this thing written, and that I don't see it as like they'll have read a book review and then want to go for it. I want them coming in empty. They don't know anything about this.
Right, so you might have
And-
nothing in your read before, except that it's 2 sections, each 50 pages long. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Yeah, you might
Yeah,
not.
I'm just gonna offer some structural information.
Mhm.
And it's funny because what I understood Michael to say, and I'm sure I was wrong here, a lot of books you'll see something very brief before the book begins. There's a Gandhi like five word statement that I love, but it's not right for my book, which I've written down so that I can find a use for it. Not that I'll ever have one, but and I find that when I read a book, I look at that and I think, huh, interesting. And I never expect to understand it till I've gotten through the book.
Right.
Sometimes it actually guides the book, but when that's the case, I'm like disappointed because I want to discover its meaning. I don't want it to tell me what's going to happen.
I'm just
That's-
trying to
that's-
navigate readers who are going to not, or will have a hard time identifying with a character or character's mentality from a completely different paradigm, where like people behave in and think and have emotion and experience their emotions and share in a completely different way, a very advanced way that maybe we can't even imagine right now.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm trying to offshoot, is trying to open up the reader to say, well, okay, here's a
That's
completely
what your
different.
stanza tries to do.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
the stanza wants to do, is open up the reader that this is offering a very different paradigm, a different experience,
So it's a great thing. You want to
and
just,
be open to it.
yeah, so you want to say,
And
you
don't
write
hold
this
characters
stanza.
to the paradigm we live in today.
So you're literally asking if that stanza does its job. Because you give it a multiple choice. That's a great way to do it. Okay, let's hear from Susie's questions.
Okay. Is it too dark or painful in some sections? Too raw, too vivid? Is it too ethnic or is it universal enough? How did you feel? How do you feel about the main characters? Are there too many things going on, or does it flow?
Okay.
And then the other thing is it too twisted or is it funny?
It's a good question.
Because
I haven't been, so I don't know what on I'm using.
humor. So I mean, like those of you who heard the Ogunquit thing, I mean, it was just supposed to be a play on Woody Allen, where this Jewish family was embracing lobster, but only a Woody Allen fan would know that.
Yeah. But everybody doesn't have to know that to enjoy that thing, right?
I don't know. I never saw the chat, so I don't know, because it was the one of the weirdest ones.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll read some of mine. I'd like to know what you know about each character in 3 words, and I'm going to put the 10 contestants' names. Just in 3 words, what do you know about them? Does it feel unfair to Darby to be eliminated? How do you feel about Bethy, Ken, and Mercy? Those are my mains. What would you like more of? What went on too long? Did it make sense that Bethy had to leave town? Do the kids work? What made you laugh out loud? What made you cry? What made you gasp? What made you roll your eyes? I consider this plot and character fairly finished. Does it feel done to you? Does Ken always seem like a douchebag, or does he turn a corner? Does Pete's character change work? How do you respond to Everett, the father? What writer does it remind you of? How do you feel now? These are the ones you guys these are my steals, so no point in reading them. So how do you guys feel about this? Do you feel like you're gonna you have 2 weeks to work this through a little bit more, read your 100 pages, see what you really are worrying about or wondering about. Like I said, they don't have to be the beginning of your book and they don't have to be consecutive. And 100 is the max. 100 is not required of anybody. You can underutilize the opportunity as a reader. Okay, let's just say what we're writing. I think most of us know, and we asked Karen, but let's just say what we're submitting from around the clock here. You're at my left, Susie. Will you tell us what you're writing and what part of it you probably are going to submit?
I'm really not even sure what I'm going to submit. I really have to go over that.
Sure.
And it depends on how my first class goes and what my assignments are tomorrow night, because I haven't taken this instructor since before the pandemic.
Okay,
And
so what's the name of the book you're writing, or the basic premise of the book?
I keep changing the title. So, so basically the premise of the book is, that I'm a reluctant transplant, that I somehow never meant to stay in Los Angeles. And because of what was happening externally in the world, as well as what was happening. So there's the external, there's historically what's happening. There's the AIDS epidemic, there's the crash, there's the writer's strike. There's, I get to LA and there's, the Rodney King strikes, there's floods, there's, and everyone on the East Coast is like, come back to New York, but I can't. I lose, if something happens, my tenant doesn't pay rent, I lose my little place in Manhattan and I get stuck here, so, and then I get married here too. So, and how that happens, and that's not a traditional marriage. So it's, braiding in my legacy, which is like old world Europe, where my grandmother did something unheard of back in her day and didn't wait for my grandfather to send for her. She got impatient, got on a boat, went and found him, hunted him down in New York. I mean, an Orthodox Jewish girl doesn't do that. And then her whole family perished, and she had like 12 brothers and sisters. So if she hadn't done that, we wouldn't be here. And if I hadn't moved to LA, then other relatives wouldn't left. I mean, it had this large little unit in New York. So how to condense that and distill it, and choose which scenes, which flashbacks is going to be a real challenge, because I'm braiding characters from 3 generations.
Cool. You can actually workshop titles. You could throw in
I mean, I've had lots of things. I called it The House at Dunkirk because I fell in love with the house, and and that's why I stayed. And then we had to sell the house, and I never quite came to terms with that. But
that's what I mean. That's one of the questions.
Another one I was using was the not-for-profits, because my branch of the family was odd.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm just saying you could consider using this as a way to workshop titles. Martha,
I definitely will have to, because I don't know.
Martha's saying, I'm writing a novel about a young woman, Eleni, who reads tarot. The book's entitled The Reading, or It's in the Cards. Okay. Who else? Michael, what are you writing?
Sure. I'm sharing the first 100 pages of my novel called Aber's Way, Earth Goddess of Starseed.
Goddess.
I think that's all. I don't, it's really about it's a coming of age story in a setting that is so far in the past that it borders on futurism. And it's a LBGT story of friendship and in using one's assets, or it's really it's an inner journey that reflects an outer journey, or the inner journey reflects a very treacherous outer journey. And at times the inner journeys are very treacherous as well.
Cool.
Like that a lot.
Melody, you want to say what you're writing?
Oh, who, me? Oh, I'm like spaced out here.
No, the other Melody.
I have a, I
Me
have,
too.
my title is, How Do I Explain This to My Kids, is my title. And,
I laughed out loud at that.
and basically it starts off, I become a single mom and I flee from a marriage with 3 little kids under 5 and have to literally start over from scratch and hang out with my estranged mom, who's kind of a hippie, kind of eccentric person. And then basically what happens is throughout, I have to start over and I don't have a plan. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I remember the 60s and growing up in San Francisco. So the stories relate. And I literally had to braid in all the chapters I wrote about the 60s. So sort of like what you're doing over here with the your 3 generations. It's more like 2 generations, but it is going back and forth. Maybe it's 3, yeah, including my kids, I guess it is. So that's it. And I want to submit the first 100 pages.
Okay, very cool.
And it's several chapters, but the whole book is written, believe it or not, beginning to end. And all I'm working on now are edits and revisions.
Very cool. Karen.
I'm in the same place as Melody. I'm doing edits and revisions. The book is done, so I know where the characters are going. And I wanted to add a question real quick, if I don't mind.
Yeah.
The one question I want to know is, what do you predict is going to happen?
Ooh,
After
very good
this?
question.
I really want to know if I've given too much information, or if, I want surprises to still happen in the book. Mine's
I love that question. Very good question.
Thank you. It's a coming of age story set in the 1960s and 70s, about a girl navigating her life with extreme sibling rivalry and mental illness in her family. So that's it in a nutshell. So,
And its name is?
The Forgotten Daughter.
Oh, right. Okay.
Thank
Dean, we're up to you. What are you submitting and what's it
I'm
about?
just writing about my family.
What do
Sibling
you mean,
rivalry,
Karen?
forgotten
Karen.
daughter. It's,
Karen's writing about your family. I was going to say,
it's amazing.
I didn't ever know if Nanny and Herschel were your family.
That plot description is my family.
Okay.
All right.
He may not sign up for yours.
Once I went for a walk and somebody asked me, what do you write about? And they were a complete stranger. So I just blithely said family dynamics and romantic disasters.
Covers it all.
I just look like, okay, we're done now.
I gotta say that sometimes when a stranger asks you, you get the most succinct answer.
They don't need to hear anymore.
That's pretty compelling.
It dawns on me that mine is actually, well, it's a 3-generation novel. There's a little bit of the 4th generation too, because it starts with this couple and why they leave Europe and come to the US. But then we get a little background on them, which is their parents approve of them and they each go to each other's parents' house for dinner. So I give a little background. So it's actually 4 generations, but that's really just a little bit of setup. And so it's, the conditions under which they had to leave, and which is tragedy.
Mhm.
And how the tragedy, it's tragedy for her, it's tragedy in her family, and obviously it affects him, but it's not his family. And so they leave and they come to New York, and he thrives. And it's like his mission was to thrive and give her a good life. But he can't give her a good life because she just can't have a good life. She's emotionally scarred. She's damaged. But he'll do everything he can to give her as good a life as possible. And they have a child, and we follow that child, and he's the second part of the book. And so we've got this wonderful man who does everything he can, and he's very successful, and his damaged wife. Then he's got this son who's completely different and really not a particularly likable guy, who also happens to do very well in a very different way. He gets married, they have a child, and we get the dynamics of him and his wife, and his wife's dynamics are interesting. But you know how they say men marry their mother and women marry their father. And we have a good amount of that going on with them. And then they have a son, and he doesn't marry either of his parents. And we see his dynamic. And so this lasts about a century, this book. And it's called Pineapple Street Blues because they live on the original couple. After running around the Lower East Side for a little bit in New York, they end up moving to Pineapple Street in Brooklyn. And there's a point at which, having to do with some stuff that's described in the book, they feel they're in danger. And this mobster who has befriended this guy says to his cohort in the Irish mob that he wants them to be protected on Pineapple Street. And the mobster says, "Oh, you need some Pineapple Street blues? You got it." And then
we do have, it's 2:04, so I want to be conscious of people's time. So
I'll wrap it up in a moment. Then the elder one has bought some buildings, and he always paints the lobby this certain blue. And the son, who's deep into the real estate business, is meeting with this guy, and he's telling him how ugly the lobbies are, and he'll paint them just like his father did. Well, you couldn't hear them. Reminding me to make a call now. He says, it's a nice color my father uses. I always called it pineapple blue. And
nice.
so this pine, and then the son ends up moving back to the apartment on Pineapple Street. So Pineapple Street Blues is, and the son is the son's best friend, who is a woman, who has a key to his apartment, and she's kind of on this case. She says, "Look at you, you got the Pineapple Street Blues." So,
okay, so that sounds cool and interesting. I'll quickly say what mine is, and then we'll call it a day for now. Because I know we got started late, but it is 2:04 and people might have other obligations. So I'm writing a book called Crushing Debt. It's based on the story of a reality competition game show. People who have over $100,000 in debt can qualify, and then they compete in humiliating challenges, including like a homeless challenge and a staycation challenge, things like that. At any rate, in it, the main financial guru, Bethy, is facing bankruptcy and trying to hide it. So her life is devolving, although everybody loves her. Ken, whom everybody hates, is riding high, but taking bribes, which when that gets revealed, he tries to get blamed on Bethy. So that's my story. It's called Crushing Debt. It's hopefully funny. I'm working on funny. All right. Any other comments before we go? So October 15th is our deadline for uploading your descriptions, et cetera, et cetera. I will definitely get a very clear email out as to what the expectation is and how to do it. Okay. Very cool. I'm really looking forward to this.
Oh, can your description be a synopsis?
It can be, yeah. What would a synopsis be in terms of how many words do you think? What if we had a uniform synopsis being how many words would you like? How many words would you guys like on somebody else's?
Half a page.
Half a page? That's about 150 words.
Say
I think
about
I've written one
150.
already. I have one that I can share.
It is a useful thing because you have to have one. So 150 word synopsis is a really good is a really good idea. Okay. Thanks everybody.
Thanks.
Talk to you later.
so long.
Bye, everyone.